Olivia Newton-John was a talented artist who could do a lot of different things. She was popular with people of all ages and helped make a place for Australian pop culture on the world stage. She was a rare performer whose career did well at different times and in different ways, and who did well when she tried out different parts of her talent. Today, we're going to tell you about her amazing life and how she became a star. Let's begin talking about her early life. Newton-John was born in England in 1948. When she was 5, her family moved to Melbourne, Australia. Her career in show business really got going when she was still a teenager. At age 14, Newton-John and 3 of her classmates formed the all-girl group Soul 4. They played a lot in a coffee shop owned by her brother-in-law. She started appearing regularly on Australian TV shows like Time for Terry and The Happy Show on HSV7, where she was known as Lovely Livy. She also went on The Go Show, where she met singer Pat Carroll, with whom she would later sing a duet, and John Farrar, who would later become her music producer. Carroll and Farrar would later marry. In 1965, she performed Anyone Who Had a Heart and Everything's Coming Up Roses on the TV show Sing Sing Sing, which was hosted by an Australian star from the 1960s named John O'Keefe. She won the contest. She was hesitant to use the prize she had won, a trip to Great Britain, at first, but after her mother told her to broaden her horizons, she went there almost a year later. Newton-John recorded Till You Say You'll Be Mine as her first single for Decca Records in Britain. Newton-John missed her then boyfriend, Ian Turpie, who she had worked with in the Australian telefilm Funny Things Happen Down Under, while she was in Britain. She kept making plans to go back to Australia, but her mother would always cancel them. When Pat Carroll moved to the UK, it changed the way Newton-John saw things. They called themselves Pat and Olivia, and played in nightclubs all over Europe. In one case, they were booked at Paul Raymond's Revue in Soho, London, but didn't know it was a strip club until they went on stage in prim, frilly dresses with high collars. After Carroll's visa ran out and she had to go back to Australia, Newton-John stayed in Britain to keep working as a solo artist until 1975. Music career. Even though Newton-John had early success, she wasn't able to find her place in music right away. She was somewhere between country and pop. In 1973, though, her song Let Me Be There was a top 10 hit on both the country and pop charts. It earned Newton-John her first Grammy for Best Female Country Vocal Performance and the Academy of Country Music's Award for Most Promising Female Vocalist. Newton-John had an even bigger year the next year. First, she sang for the UK at the Eurovision Song Contest, where her song, Long Live Love, came in 4th place. The song I Really Love You, which won Grammys for Record of the Year and Best Pop Vocal Performance by a Female in 1975, gave her first #1 hit in the US. Over the next few years, Newton-John kept having hits, especially on the odd contemporary and country charts. Behind the scenes, however, Newton-John got into a fight with her record label, MCA, that had major effects on the music business as a whole. Using a part of California labor law called the 7-Year Rule, Newton-John sued MCA for $10 million and was able to leave the label in the end. In response, the record industry lobbied the California state legislature to make rules that would let them sue artists for lost profits if they didn't meet album commitments or other parts of their contracts. This would make it much harder for artists to back out of deals like Newton-John did. Newton-John was fighting MCA at the same time she was having one of the most important moments of her career and of pop culture in general. The movie version of Grease, which was a big hit on Broadway, was a huge hit. The soundtrack, meanwhile, was one of the best-selling albums of the year, with Travolta and Newton, The John's You're One That I Want, at the top of the charts. Acting career. Newton-John always talked about being cast as Sandy changed the way she thought about her career. As the 1980s began, Newton-John fully embraced her new image, even though her next movie, Xanadu, didn't do as well as Grease. The movie's soundtrack still had 2 hits, Magic, another #1 by Newton-John, and the title track, which she sang with Electric Light Orchestra. The next year, Newton-John had the biggest hit of her career, a provocative pop gem that feels like it was made for the exercise craze of the 1980s, with MTV's popularity growing. Physical also got a big boost from its exciting music video, in which Newton-John helps a bunch of fat and out-of-shape men get ridiculously ripped. In 1983, Newton-John and Travolta worked together again on the movie Two of a Kind. Like Xanadu, the movie bombed at the box office and with critics, but the soundtrack was a huge hit. As the 1980s went on, Newton-John couldn't keep up that level of success, but she was still a star and part of pop culture. She used her fame to support a number of good causes, like the United Nations Environment Program. John Newton became a big supporter of efforts to help people with breast cancer after she was diagnosed with it in the early 1990s and beat it. When her cancer returned later in life, she became an outspoken advocate for medical marijuana. Newton-John also used her time with cancer to make an album, Guide Gaia, One Woman's Journey, which came out in 1994. Olivia had been in many relationships with men over the course of her life. She was married twice and had many other relationships that she talked about openly. Olivia's love life was full of ups and downs, from her first love, Ian Turpie, to the tragic loss of Patrick McDermott, who went fishing with 22 other people in 2005 and never came back, to her husband, John Easterling, with whom she spent her last moments before she died. Olivia met actor Ian Turpie for the first time when she was 16 in 1965. They were both in her first movie, Funny Things Happen Down Under, and they started dating while making the movie. This was in the late 1960s. Ian died in 2012 at the age of 68, but at the time, the two of them were still in touch. Olivia was supposedly by his bedside when he died and thought of him as her first true love. Olivia met actor Ian Turpie for the first time when she was 16. They were both in her first movie, Funny Things Happen Down Under, and they started dating while making the movie. This was late in the 1960s. Ian died in 2012 at the age of 68, but at that time, the two of them were still in touch. Olivia was supposedly by his bedside when he died and thought of him as her first true love. She dated Bruce Welch for 5 years, Lee Kramer for 5 years, Matt Lattanzi for 10 years, Patrick McDermott for 9 years until he disappeared, and then John Easterling. Olivia moved on with her life after McDermott went missing. She met John Easterling, the founder and president of the Amazon Herb Company, and became her future husband. They got married at an Incan ceremony in Peru in 2008. Finally, let's highlight her illness and some of her other achievements. In May 2017, it was reported that Newton-John's breast cancer has spread to her lower back, meaning that it had come back. Sciatica was the wrong diagnosis for her back pains at first. Newton-John later said that this was actually her third time with breast cancer, since she was first diagnosed with it in 1992 and then again in 2013. When the cancer came back in 2017, it had spread to her bones and reached stage 4. Newton-John's metastatic bone lesions caused her a lot of pain, and she talked about using cannabis oil to help her feel better. She supported the use of cannabis for medical purposes, and her daughter Chloe owns a cannabis farm in Oregon, in the Santa Ynez Valley in California, on August 8, 2022. She was 73 years old. Newton-John will be remembered as a sweet girl next-door type with a beautiful voice who loved the country that adopted her, but who also sometimes showed a more risque side, like in Sandy's leather jumpsuit or the cheeky video to the unapologetically sexual physical. She has already won awards and been given honors for her work. She is now part of the ARIA Hall of Fame. In the Queen's New Year Honors list for 2020, she was named a Dame. She has also been a part of the cultural conversation for a long time because she's been on popular shows like Drag Race. She stayed down to earth and friendly, showing up regularly at things like wellness walks to talk to people and cheer them on. We will miss her, but we will never. Unfortunately, that's all the time we had for today. Thanks for sticking with us till the end. Make sure to like and follow for more amazing content.